on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
Well, it's a special honor today to have this gentleman on the show who I just met a week ago, I think, right, Chief?
That's
Over
correct.
at Schriever or Peterson Air Force Base. He is Chief Master Sergeant Troy Davis, a PA kind of guy, a staff PA, right? You're like at the Pentagon. You're the PA guy for enlisted people and
Well,
anybody else, right?
yes, yeah. I'm the Chief Enlisted Manager at SAF PA, but for Space Force. So it's
For
a
Space
very
Force.
unique
Okay.
position. Yeah. So
Okay.
I do have the opportunity to work with our career field manager, who's in the same office. She gets to run the show for our career field and for us PA chiefs. But I do have the pleasure of being the Chief Enlisted Manager for our airmen who work at Space Force Public
Okay.
Affairs.
All right. Now, but you must have made Chief in the Air Force.
I did, and I still
Okay.
am an airman, and that's the
Oh,
unique
okay. But
part
you,
about yes.
man, so you get like two paychecks, one
There,
from space and
there's
one from Air Force.
it's such a dynamic and interesting job, that mission that we have, not just in public affairs, but all of the support communities
Yeah.
that support the Space Force. They all come from the Air Force, and they're all performed by airmen for the most part,
Right.
alongside with Guardian civilians. So it's
Right.
definitely a unique opportunity for our airmen and for me in my role, trying to help those airmen navigate something that's really a once in a life, once in a career opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you grew up as a combat camera kind of guy, right? One of those guys that takes pictures of the war as it's happening around you and don't get paid for it.
Yeah, that's not something we talked about when we first met last week, but I did get an opportunity to early in my career to work for Combat Camera. I actually grew up as a radio and television broadcaster. So I started my whole walk of life in the Air Force at AFN stations,
Yeah.
specifically at Lodges Field. But after that, my second tour was with First Combat Camera Squadron, right in
Yeah.
the thick of, I got there in 2007, so right in the middle of all the wartime operations. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a lack of opportunity to get out the door and be a part of things when I was there.
Right, right. And as I mentioned when we did meet Chief, the Chief retired now. Leighton Williams is one of my number one proteges. So say hello because he watches the show.
No, that's a fantastic, and I'm really, blessed and amazed that he remembers me. I was a first term airman when I
Wow.
first met Chief Williams way back when. It was 2005 at Lodges Field, and he was part of, as the command chief there at the time, was able to speak with us at the first term Airman Center, if I'm not mistaken, what it was called back then. And just was really, really incredible to listen to. And one of the things coming in for me, and everyone's different, but as a young airman, there was that impression of, a chief talking to you. There was so much seniority, so much experience, and so much reverence. And just to get that in such a relaxed way, it was something that I wasn't used to that early in
Yeah,
my career. So basically, just a guy talking to other young men and women who are just
yeah,
starting their career in a way that wasn't so, intimidating. It
yeah,
was it was
yeah.
a breath of fresh air and something I wasn't used to up to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's his personality. Chief Williams is just a great guy, and he
Yeah.
succeeded me at Ramstein when I retired. In fact, he was in charge of my retirement ceremony and threw me out the door after it was over. But anyway, good people. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't, especially the folks that are going to watch this on YouTube. Your sign back behind you says Chiefs Band, and I'm a band guy. I did
Yes.
that for 24 of the 31 years that I was on active duty. So there's a story there. I know there is. It's got to be.
It was a huge surprise, and so that plaque, along with the one right below it, was from my previous tour prior to where I'm at right now. I spent 6 years at USAFEF Africa at the headquarters, and my final 2 years there was as the Chief Enlisted Manager for Public Affairs, and I spent a lot of time, as much as I could, with the band team there because they are part of public affairs, and
Right.
they're such a huge part of what we do in telling the Air Force story, and not just telling the story, but when you think about Europe and Africa, the diplomacy that the band offers to allow the military and the Department of Defense and the U.S. government to get into places that no one else in uniform can.
Mm.
It was incredible to be a part of what they do and to help them get to places that they wanted to go. and do the performances all around the two continents. And on the behind the scenes part, just helping those airmen grow and develop in their individual walks of life. And so, as much as I could, I spent as much time pouring into those airmen the same way that I poured into every other public affairs airman on our staff and across, across the commands. And so as I neared the end of my tour, the leadership team over there at the band, uh, Lieutenant Colonel Arturo Quinones and Chief Chacan, they brought myself and my director over as we kind of did our farewell. And because around the same time, our director was leaving soon, and they surprised me with that plaque, which was a total surprise and humbling and honoring. And those words are sometimes we use in passing, but it really was kind of a culmination of just how much I appreciated them allowing me to come in. Yes, I am the public affairs chief, but they had a chief in that office who did incredible things, and be able to work with him together just to help those airmen succeed both in the mission that we asked them to do, but also just growing as people, as humans, whether
Yeah,
it's professional or personally. That was an absolute treat to be able to experience that
yeah,
and share with them of that. And so that's just a small token of that story
yeah.
in that time in my life that I look back on fondly.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's well, they're all artists, so they have that huge right brain, and you have to connect with them in that right brain sense to get them to do the left brain stuff. So, because I was there at the USAFE band for about 3 years, I think, something like that. So, and then I went over to Ramstein. But anyway, enough about me. So, the question of the day, Chief, is in your experience, and how long have you been in?
It'll be 20 years come next month. So
Okay,
actually it'll be 12 April. So
okay.
exactly 29 days from now.
Yeah, yeah. So you're a baby chief.
I do get that a lot.
Yeah,
I've been blessed with the opportunity to serve in this role relatively
yeah,
early in my career, yes.
yeah, yeah. Now, so how long have you been a chief?
I've been a chief. It'll be 3 years this
Three,
August.
3 years. Okay. So a lot of experience, but not in time necessarily. Eventually, if you stay 30, you'll have 13 years or 40, whatever. But anyway, in your experience, chief, what does it take to be a good chief? Especially nowadays. And things are crazy right now, or we think they are, but we've been there, done that. If you've been, altogether, I served 50 years, seen this happen many, many times, man. And we get through it. Nobody dies other than sometimes, we go kill the enemy. But that's what we're supposed to do. We'll get through all of this stuff. But anyway, right now, with what's going on, what's your best advice for especially brand new chiefs? All of us, because it is changing, but what's your best advice?
That's a humbling question. And you ask 17 chiefs that question, you're going to get 17 very unique responses. And to the point of these challenging times, it's a conversation I have constantly with folks, and it's not just uniform folks, it's everyone and everyone that serves alongside of us, whether they wear the uniform or not. These are challenging times, and the perspective I like to offer them, specific to that point, is we've always navigated challenging times. I can't recall a time in my career and like I said, early in my career, my second assignment, starting in 2007 for 4 years, I deployed twice to both Iraq and Afghanistan. And I'll tell you, being in a war zone in the front lines as part of combat camera, we don't, sit behind the fence there. We're out there where the action's happening. That's a trying, challenging time, surviving those deployments in whatever capacity we all do across the military, and coming back home and navigating that life of leaving your family and whatnot. And even generations past, every generation has had their challenges. This is ours. And that's what I offer for folks to give a little bit of perspective. It is very difficult. It is very challenging for some people right now. But the perspective of this you aren't alone and others have navigated their own challenges, I think is something that kind of gives folks a little breather on this isn't the end of the world per se. It's just heavy times, and it helps to navigate it together. And to the fruit of your question there, tips to be a good chief. Being a not even 20-year chief and making it relatively early in my career, even before I made chief, it was a daunting thing coming up the ranks relatively fast. And looking back on it, I did appreciate that at the time. I appreciate it now. It was never a want of mine to, as I said earlier before we started recording this, to become a first sergeant or to become a chief. They were aspirations. And if I got the opportunity one day, how fantastic would it be? And I looked forward to it. But it was never something throughout my career that I pursued until I got to that point. And I was able to be an additional duty first sergeant, yet never wear the diamond, but still the opportunity to sit in that seat for a year and experience that and help airmen in that way. And then making chief so quickly, it was daunting because I felt that lack of experience. And so whether you are a chief that gets selected at 16 years or 26 years, it doesn't change the fact that becoming a chief is daunting. And I'll tell you the thing that helped me from day one was two things that come off the top of my head. Is one, just being who I was that got me to where I'm at that day.
Yeah.
There was some manner of success in that. Again, I had never pursued in any great context to make any rank at all up until chief and through chief rather. And so it was just being the guy I was. I just like taking care of people because people took care of me. I got here in great part, in great significant part, based on the village that I was surrounded by.
Yeah.
Both peers and leaders and those that I led all helped me to get to wherever it was I was going and wherever I'll keep going as I continue in my career. And that leads on to that second part, which is surround yourself with people, good people, chiefs who are already doing it. Leadership. I mean, there are so many officers that I still count as folks I want to emulate when I grow up.
Hmm.
And I watch what they do, and I try and emulate that in my own way, not taking exactly what they do and how they do it and who they are, but helping me become a better version of myself, the best version of myself every day. And so those are the two things that I would offer for every new chief is just don't feel like you have to become something that you weren't before, because what got you to chief is what's going to help you become a very good chief.
Yeah.
And then continue to surround yourself, which I assume you've already been doing throughout your career, with the people who helped you get there and
Yeah.
the people that you follow, and just keep them close by and
Yeah.
seek their advice, because there is no one part of this job called life, whether it's in and out of uniform, that we can't do better together.
Yeah. And I think you'll agree, Chief, because I do this often, especially with the new chiefs. Don't hire or don't hang out with yes people. If you're going to succeed, truly succeed, you want people that are going to be honest with you and tell you when. And I just did this last week. I was up at the academy, and I think I may have told you I taught at the academy for 19 plus years. And every time that I met a new group of cadets, which are 18-year-old kids and men and women, I'd always tell them, and I just, like I said, I did last week, don't let me fail. If I'm about to screw up, stop me. Don't feel like I'm going to yell at you or, don't, there is no fear. Just tell me, because I'd rather you tell me and I not mess up than mess up and find out later that you didn't tell me and you knew I was about to mess up. Would you agree with that? You need those kind of people that are going to be, they don't have to be rude or anything. There's a way to tell someone that they did something or are about to do something wrong in a respectful way. But that's what I think is key in that I've been married for 47 wonderful and fulfilling years. Here's here's the answer. Okay, because you're going to ask how did this is the answer. Smile and nod. But
Yes.
and Deb, I'm so glad. Sometimes it torques me off, that she tells me something that I don't want to hear. But if I didn't hear it from her, I would fail. And then I would really know and make it an ass with myself and all that. So I'd rather hear her tell me, that those that shirt and the pants don't go together. Now, you were in Germany, so everything goes together. but but would you agree? You don't want yes people. You want people that will help you and will be honest with you.
There's no growth in an echo chamber. You're going to get his affirmation of what you already know. And there's no perspective outside of that because it's just solidified the only thing that I have in my head. And so, yeah, to get those different opinions, to get that perspective that might, in some context, agree, but offer a different vantage point. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, men are setting you up for, I don't want to say a lot of failure, but a lack of growth, a lack of perspective. And as somebody who is a leader amongst leaders, and leading, again, you're leading leaders, you're helping advise leaders make decisions, you're helping, your airmen, both enlisted and officers, continue to grow and develop in the ways that they need to. Understanding all the different perspectives and all the different walks of life and all the different ways that they came up in their career is critical. And the way that I came up in my career is not the way that any of my other, the PA chiefs came up in their career. And so, whether it is in my office and having conversations, and I have to help the commander make a decision. I don't want to be surrounded by people who are going to go give me north and south because I'm the chief.
Right.
That's just that's a dangerous thing to do. Unfortunately, especially in this career field, I have no shortage of people who have opinions and aren't scared or hesitated to offer that. And I offer that to everyone out there, that may hear this and tunes into this, is that you absolutely want people who are going to disagree with you, and challenge people to do that and feel comfortable doing that. You can say it all day long, please, guys, disagree with me. You've got to give them that venue, that avenue, and that environment where somebody takes that first step, and it's rewarded with, I'm receiving it.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And let's go a little bit further down that thought process
Yeah.
so other folks feel more comfortable. It's always that one person that takes that first step, receive that, and then you'll watch that prosper from others offering opinions that, again, at the end of the day, you might disagree with and go a different direction, but it gives them that comfort, those around you, to offer their opinions, which might take you somewhere you didn't know you could go before.
Right. Right. And like I say, there's a proper way to do it, and there's a
Absolutely.
proper way to accept it too, Chief.
Yes.
Because you gotta walk the talk. You can't just say, I'm willing to listen to you and then not listen to you. That they pick up on that. Everybody picks up on that. Yeah, this person is just telling me that they want my opinion when they really don't want my opinion. So, yeah, you got to be careful with that, and be honest. I think maybe depending on how thick your skin is. When I became a chief, Chief Gwaltney. It's funny because whenever I tell the story, people ask me, well, what was his first name? Chief. I don't know if he had a first name. He was Chief Gwaltney. But anyway, he took me aside and he said, Bob, if you want to be a chief and you want to be an effective chief, you have to be willing to get your butt chewed at least once a week.
Mm.
And at first, okay, Chief, whatever you say, but I had no idea what he was talking about until I started working with some senior leaders, some senior officers. And that's true. I had to be the one that went in there and told the boss, this is not going to work. You're about to go to jail, man. That's the hard one because they never
Yes.
want to hear it. Get out. Okay, whatever. But
With Chiefs, whether you're new or you're old, you got to be okay with being wrong, and you got to be okay with not knowing. I mean, that's those are some three powerful words you can tell a junior enlisted member or any enlisted member, is the chief looking dead in the eye and go, you know what? I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know. To say that out loud can convey a lot of emotions, but it's being honest with yourself. It's not making things up on the fly. I don't know can be immediately followed with, but I'm going to find out.
yeah,
I'm going to get back to you.
yeah,
Because the chief, as I grew up, the chief had all the answers. The chief knew everything, and they lived the whole career. There's nothing the chief doesn't know. Much like a parent out there.
yeah,
Mom and dad know all the answers. Chief doesn't know all the answers, just like mom and dad don't know all the answers.
yeah,
But we're in a rare position where we generally have networks, and we're surrounded by communities of people who can help us get the stuff that few others can. And so
right,
that's what comes with being a chief, is having the resources
right,
that many others don't.
yeah,
So don't feel like you're on the spot, and whether it's your boss or an airman basic that comes up to you and asks a question, and it turns into stump to chump, be
yeah,
okay being a
yeah,
chump for a few minutes.
yeah.
But
Well,
turn
and
around and give them that.
historically, Chief, back in I came in 1972. I don't know that you were even born then, but in those days, in the 70s, maybe 75, maybe 80s, the chiefs did know everything because they
Mm,
had the experience and they knew they had done it. They had all of them had been to Vietnam, and they knew what all that stuff was. But right, or I'm going to say around the 80s or so, things started getting changing because of the technology. No kidding. I remember saying, I will never own a computer. I remember saying that. And
Yeah.
now everything I have is computerized. I got, I don't know, 5 or 6 Macs and Apple Watches and iPhones and all kinds of stuff. So technology has changed our perspective on that. And the older guys, especially the real old guys, I think would still say, yeah, I knew pretty much everything, but not anymore. And now, and like I said, I'm teaching at the Air Force Academy. Those youngsters know way more than I will. They've forgotten more than I'll ever know about technology, not the military. And
Sure.
with things that are changing with standards, Secretary Hegseth saying, "Hey, we need to go back to standards and all that kind of stuff." Great,
Right.
we did that, and we know all that. We've been saying that. However, the youngsters, they're different. You have to treat them different. You have to communicate with them differently. So, yeah, you have to be. I think what's the word? Authentic and vulnerable, because you
Mhm.
don't know everything. You don't know everything. Those youngsters know.
Right.
It's like they're amazing, man. They are. Sometimes I wonder if they're not AI. With the face of a robot or something.
Well, they know how to use the tools, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And well before AI. I mean, we've got everything right here. We've got everything in the palm of our hand. And today's generation, that generation we're talking about, they know how to leverage it far better than we do.
yeah.
A chief who's approaching 20 years, a chief who did it years ago. And I think there's some truth to that in a unique way when you talk about back in the day where chiefs knew everything. And then I think about that when I was a young airman where you'd walk up to a master sergeant or a senior master sergeant or a chief master sergeant and they could spout off AFIs atop their head line by line verbatim. You go back and you read it and they just gave you the whole paragraph
Right,
like it was ingrained into memory because it was.
right,
You don't see a lot of that anymore, and that's not a knock. That's not a knock against this generation. It's just we have access to it, so the memorization isn't necessarily required as it once was. Now there is still a something to be said about knowing regulations good enough to, have a good context of some, the key points. And that's important. You can't not know nothing, right?
right.
How many double
Well,
negatives can I put in there?
and you being a PA kind of guy, Chief, in back in the 70s, the 80s, it took like what now would seem forever to get a change to
Yes,
a regulation, uh, uh, anything.
not
Where now
anymore.
it's instantaneous. So I mean, the last few years that I was on active duty there at the Air Force Band, at the USAFE Band,
Hmm.
I had to ask my first sergeant a lot of times, what's the new reg say? Because she doesn't look right, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know what the reg is because it changed about 5 minutes ago. So tell me what it is. And luckily, he had the technology to find out immediately what the change was. Otherwise, but back in my day, we had what did we call them? Intermediate change or order. I can't remember what they call, but it
Hmm.
would take months to get the word from the Pentagon to March Air Force Base about the new change, and we didn't know what it was until it showed up. So things are just totally different. And again, and the youngsters, they don't even have phone numbers in their phones. Do you know that? They got pictures. I gotta call Dad. Bing, there's what's his number? I don't know. It's his picture.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, numbers and then things. But yeah, but that's the beauty of technology.
Yeah,
Whether it's the current generation or the leaders like us, who are still in the seat leading them. That's something to appreciate. Is that technology is there. Again, whether it's the knowledge part and the knowing things, technology allows us to know so much more. And so our ability to embrace that allows us to continue to be successful leaders and understanding that that's where that generation of airmen, both officers and enlisted, that's where they're at right now.
yeah,
And to not to discount that or feel like, they need to learn or retain information in a different way. No, this is it. This is their world, and we're
yeah,
just leading them in it.
yeah, yeah. Now, without spewing any propaganda, Chief, being honest, straight up, as I'm looking at you, you think we're in a good place?
Across the board, I do. I think we're in a challenging place, and the we have airmen that rise to the challenge constantly, and this is the time when again, whether you're a chief or you're a senior NCO or an officer or even an airman lead, this is an opportunity for people to rise up and help others navigate tough spots, because across the board, some people can navigate adversity, whatever that adversity is, in ways that their folks right next to them can't. And so this is an opportunity. Again, going back to when I was a young air baby, we were going through two wars at the same time. We didn't have enough people to send out. And so what did we have? We had people who were coming home for a few months and going right back out the door. And we had to keep people's nose above water in that situation. And again, before I enlisted and came into the military, we had other, challenges, both as a military organization, and as a country. And so there isn't a time, again, as you look back, not just recent history, but history all the way back to the world wars. And before that, every generation has had their challenge. This is ours right now.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that, through all the challenges that a lot of our airmen are facing, just, as personally or professionally, that's not a universal sentiment. And so we need to appreciate that as well. But as a military organization, we remain, an incredible fighting force because of the people who choose to serve in this uniform. And in times of struggle, we need to rally around those kind of those perspectives.
Yeah.
That we're here for each other. We're here to make sure that we remain, the world's greatest fighting force. And it starts with our people taking care of each other, because again, there's one conversation, and I know there's everyone's going to have a different line of thinking on this. There's that old question of what comes first, the people or the mission. And I strongly, and have always throughout my career, even before I knew what I was saying, I'll always tell you it's the people. Because if you don't have people to do the mission's not happening. I mean, that's just period dot. If you take care of your people, the people will take care of the mission.
Right.
And so an empty public affairs office, there are no stories being told. The mission's
Right.
not getting done.
Right.
And then likewise for the flight lines and for the finance and for every other functional community out there, the people have to come first,
Yeah.
knowing that if I have those people and their heads are in the game is going to be won every single time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we are absolutely for a good portion of not just our military, but our country. There are folks who are struggling or frustrated or anxious. The federal government's going through some huge changes. The military is changing, some of the things that were, our priorities and the way that we're saying things, but we haven't changed our foundation of what we are. We're an all volunteer force that is here to get a mission done.
Yep. Yep.
And focused on being ready for that mission. And so if we keep our eyes on that goalpost, we'll remain exactly what we're supposed to be, which is that strong fighting force. And again, those of us who can navigate that with a little healthier perspective, or aren't taken too far down by the headwinds of the day, it's our task and our job and our responsibility to help those who are weathering it a little bit rougher.
Yep. Yep. We're all in this together, and together we will be better. Thank you, Chief. I'm running out of time here, so I appreciate you. Now, and you're living in DC now, right?
I am at
Okay.
the Pentagon, and I tell you, this has been an absolute treat. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me on this.
Well, and I know you travel a lot, so I hope to look well, whenever you come to USAPA, make sure you let me know and I'll take you out for lunch.
I will.
Or something.
I'll look forward to next time.
I'll buy because you can't afford it yet. You're not even making Chiefs pay.
I'll take you up on that, and I appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to shaking hands again in person one day.
All right, Chief. Thank you very much. Chief Master Sergeant Troy Davis, SAF PA. Did I say it right?
You said it right.
All
yes,
right.
sir.
God bless you, brother.
Thanks, Chief.